What is up, ladies and gentlemen of the online family? JamiroFan 2000 here with yet another episode of JamiroFan Talks About. For the initiated of the series of nearly 10 years here on the JamiroFan 2000 YouTube channel, this has been my periodic discussion series looking at the past, present, and future of over 30 years of Jamiroquai. Now, this episode is going to be looking at one of the biggest constant things that has been happening in the era after post-Automaton, at least in the year of 2021 and to now. There have been a lot of vinyl reissues, and most of them are justified given that they're multi-decade anniversaries for vinyl reissues. But just as of recently, we had yet another reissue of High Times, their greatest hits compilation from 2006, but this time for a tour edition 2025. And this episode is going to be basically me discussing about how there's been a lot of reissues, and I'm asking a simple question: is it been enough reissues or just too many reissues? Now, I did do some digging back to look back at how many times Jamiroquai's albums, at least from the Automaton era and up, how many times these Jamiroquai albums, at least of the latter catalog, finally reaching a little bit of a vinyl reissue fruition throughout the early 2020s, which JK has always said he's always wanted to have the whole Jamiroquai album discography on vinyl and wax, and that finally came in fruition between 2023 to 2024 with the latter Jamiroquai albums finally coming out on vinyl reissue. But there have been a lot of reissues, and to my count, the first three Jamiroquai albums have been reissued probably since the year of 2015, and I'm using 2015 because that's when the reissues really started, at least for the generational sense of the millennials and up. The first three Jamiroquai albums have been reissued nearly 3 to 4 times, separately, individually, since 2015. And I'm using 2015, like I said, as a bit of a bellwether here. But we have had High Times compilation reissued twice. We've had Synchronize reissued 3 times. We've had A Funk Odyssey only reissued once, which is a good thing, because that album only had one pressing run back in its release year of 2001, and that happened to be in Europe and in Japan. But as of recently, we have seen, like I said, Jamiroquai compilations don't usually get multiple reissued in less than a year of its original release date. Now, High Times did get reissued on the vinyl for the first time, so that was justified back in the year of 2024 when all the latter Jamiroquai albums were having reissues going from AFO and up. Now, like I said, more than 2 reissues, at least of an album or a compilation from Jamiroquai within a calendar year of each other, is kind of abnormal. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm just stating facts, okay? To see them reissue High Times for the sake of like a beginning salvo of a release for a big tour, the first real tour salvo for the ninth Jamiroquai album era, which still is nameless to this third week of October of 2025, is a little bit abnormal. But I'm not saying that this greatest hits compilation getting a reissue for this upcoming tour is an indicator that they're going to stick to the greatest hits or the classic hits that they do for this tour and not air any new live material, I should say, for the ninth album era. There's still a very high likelihood that Jamiroquai might pull out 1, 2, 3 new songs from the aforementioned ninth Jamiroquai album, which is going to have a release sometime in 2026. Optimistically, fingers crossed, sometime in the first and second quarter of 2026. But like I said, having a compilation come out less than a year after the fact is kind of abnormal. In regards to the most recent anniversary reissues, like, say, we'll use Dynamite, Return of the Space Cowboy, Emergency Planet Earth, as examples. There were multiple years between those reissues, at least a 4 to 5 year separation point between those reissue points, at least for those 3 choice albums that are the last Jamiroquai albums to have multiple reissues in multiple years. Those are completely justified. I only think it's an excessive reissue when, like I said, High Times sees a reissue in less than a calendar year of its first reissue back on the vinyl, its first appearance on the vinyl reissue. So I pass the question on to you, members of the Jamily Online. Do you think there has been, in regards to the last, let's say, 5 years of Jamiroquai album reissues on most notably vinyl or CD, do you think there's been just enough reissues of Jamiroquai albums, or do you think there's been an excessive amount of reissues of Jamiroquai albums? I am most interested in hearing your opinions on this. Please feel free to leave your thoughts on this posed question down in the YouTube comment section of this episode of JamiroFan Talks About down below. I am most interested in reading your feedback on this posed question. As for me, just in regards to High Times, I think it's a little excessive to pick that compilation. But, Jamiroquai likes to do reissues that kind of garner a playlist of all their greatest hits just to get the Jamily ready, new and old, for the impending new 9th album tour, especially with Heels of Steel, which I'm sure they're going to be playing a lot of their greatest hits with a few little new songs or maybe little, rare deep cuts making it into the live set list. Of course, that's up to the band to come up with nearly a day of gigs. So, most interested in hearing your opinions on this question. Feel free to leave them down in the YouTube comments section. But as always, this is JamiroFan 2000. Thank you again for watching this episode of JamiroFan Talks About. If you like what you see, be sure to like and subscribe and ding the bell on your YouTube to stay up to date on everything about Jamiroquai. I will do my best in bringing you all the latest Jamiroquai news as it becomes available. But as always, this is JamiroFan 2000, and I'll see you again really soon with more Jamiroquai related content here on the JamiroFan 2000 YouTube channel. Bye bye, everybody. Take care, and I'll see you around.